Yeah, good company, nigga, you know how we rockin'. Feeling good, feeling great. We ain't got no time for the hate. You dig? Yeah, boss daddy, stay with a bad bitch. Never been the type to ask kids just for this rap shit. Nigga, I ain't gotta brag, cause I been had this way from average. Shawty got baggage, so we just smash it. Songs a hit, we keep the sticky, bitch, I'm posted. I feel like I'm Biggie, but I'm skinny, smoke the most pip. Let my neck with Hickey, said these bitches better know, yeah. You in my way, if you ain't with me, better know, yeah. Another night, another flight, another show, yeah. See, it's good company, I had to start my own shit. Real niggas I roll with, we bout to own this. And my girl look like Rihanna, she work in the morning. I tell her call in, cause now she in this bitch performing. Oh, that's a bet, will I get you wet with this next recording? The future look gorgeous, my hand is important. Got a feeling important, ain't much time I can give, so it's best we enjoy it. Smoke one with me, but you not my baby. We just end up fucking every time they drop it crazy. I'ma be the best to do it, you know what I'm saying. We do what we want it when we want, this feels amazing. So we just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. We just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. We just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. We just doing what we do, when we doing what we do. We say fuck 'em, we gon' ball, here's my line, give a call. We can chill, we can smoke, we can fuck, but that sauce smell like an OZ was in the car. Shawty gon' roll it if you ride. You know I like girls that love me. Got a best friend swinging by. OG said it's all gon' come with time. Sitting up in my room, coming up with rhymes. Check way back when, yeah, I been a guy. Look me in my eyes when you can tell I'm high. I don't give a fuck if my last name's songs. Yeah, somebody get hove on the phone. Give me my chain, I should sign to the rock. Put by 4 or 5 hoes in the drop. 4 or 5 in the black on bank. We just doing everything y'all niggas can't. Me and my niggas don't be talking a lot. We just everything y'all niggas ain't. Me and my squad go hard in the paint. One hand on the wheel while the other smoke dank. Stay on my grind, I skate. Ask me to scoop, this you better bring 5 for the tank. I smoke one with me, but you not my babe. We just end up fucking every time they drop a crazy. I'ma be the best to do it, you know what I'm saying. We do what we want it when we want, this feels amazing. So we just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. We just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. We just do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. When we doing what we do, when we doing what we do. Do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do. Do it, how we do it, when we doing what we do.
Everybody can't go. When you find yourself getting up off the floor.
Westside smoking reefer, man, the angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax, there's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby, you know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. Westside smoking reefer, man, the angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax, there's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby, you know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. Met her in Los Angeles, she didn't think I could handle that. Roll up smoke when now we zoning, thinking about just smashing that. Can I get a feel? I just had to ask, and it feels like I met you somewhere back in the past. Getting caught up when the time moves fast, but I can slow it down, baby girl, you bad. No boost, straight facts. Took a trip, but she brought it right back. Call up the plug to deliver the pack. So ecstatic, you attractive, like a magnet, you got it like that. And I'm high now, I can see your halo. I'm a master chief, you tryna master weed. Life a canvas, you a masterpiece. I don't see no limits like a masterpiece. Run my city like an athlete. I got hella beats and a bag of trees. Down for anything, baby, just tell me what you went to. We can smoke a do what it do. With a view of the city in the window. I'm just chillin', gotta keep this shit simple. Enjoying life, cause really we all meant to. Smoke some Westside smoking reefer. I an angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax. There's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby. You know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. Westside smoking reefer, met the angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax. There's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby. You know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. Back to Boston. Hit this weed, it feels awesome. Let's take a trip to Austin. Rendezvous in LA. Throw all them doubts away. Let's get back in the bay. Look, babe, let's count this cake. We got millions to make. You ain't got shit to lose. I ain't got shit to do. We got similar views. That's why I fuck with you. You such a sight to see. Roll up, come ride with me. Westside, we smoking reefer. Met an angel on the beach. Westside smoking reefer. Met an angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax. There's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby. You know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. Westside smoking reefer, met an angel in Los Angeles. Me, how you, how we can relax. There's no cameras here. Life get overwhelming, baby. You know you can handle that. Hey, can you handle that? I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can. I know I can.
Sean Dream Show 003. And today, actually, I want to talk real quick about Naum. We just dropped our fall-winter collection. So go to naumbrand.com, check that out. Now we got that out the way. Today I got some very special guests. This guy, I would say he is the leader of the new wave, the youth, I would say. I mean, at least doing it as professionally as he's done it. He's built up a lot of talent in the city. I mean, we can start with Terrence Spectacle. We can go with Debbie Stones, Lars, Kiss Killed. He's worked with everybody. I got him on the podcast because I want to pick his brain, see what he thinks on a couple of things. And he has his own label, Iris. He has a lot to talk about. So let's welcome him to the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And I needed to enlist some more help, And this guy, I would consider him, he's definitely my brother. He lives with me, roommate, genius musician, genius mind in general, just intelligent. One of the most intelligent people that I know personally. Always putting me on some stuff. Let's welcome THANKYOUTEZ to the album.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Appreciate it, bro.
So I guess let's get right into it. So break down what the Iris is. What is Iris?
The Iris is, in my opinion, homegrown, independent record label. It's in the name, but for me, I wanted to curate talent that was unique and really about making music, but also, niggas who had an image and a look and a style, so it naturally came together, but what it turned into is not something I originally planned, so because of that, every day it's like evolving into something new. So, it's cool. I fuck with it.
So essentially, are you just finding local talent and then, bringing them in and mentoring them? Is it just a mentorship? Or because for me, it's like you do everything. You do their videos, you engineer.
Yeah.
You're basically like a creative director. Would you consider yourself a creative director for all these artists?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. It depends on the artist and what exactly they need. I'm someone who, very young, like I've always been recording. I've always been making music. I've always been working with other people. Like in middle school, I put together a whole compilation with at least 15 different people who didn't make music, but they were interested enough to come over and record after school. So, you know, we put together a whole project. A lot of the songs I wrote, I mean, just I was very much into music growing up. So, you know, naturally, I had a lot of tools. And the artists, you know, depending on who I'm working with, they come and get different things. The things that, you know, how I work with Terrence is not how I work with Kids Killed. And it's not how I work with, or how I used to work with Danny or work with Lars. Like, everybody is very different. But, you know, that's kind of just my thing, is that I'm able to do just a lot of things or what they need. So fill in the gaps.
Just a jack of all trades, basically. You're just there to utilize, you know, for them to utilize you.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what would you say? What do you see in them? Like, how does somebody get in contact with you and you know you bring them under your wing? How does that happen? Are these like your childhood friends, or like what you just got an eye for? You just scope them out?
Nah, kind of towards 2013, I was working with the female artists exclusively, and you know we made music for about 3 years, all the way from when I graduated to about 2013. I was 19 at the time, and we just could never get out the studio. You know, she was never wanting to do videos. She was insecure, a lot of different things. So, you know, eventually I was just like, I got to do something different. And I wound up starting a nonprofit where I was just doing random things, throwing shows. We did the Live for Life. Me and Terrence, you know, I had been engineering for Terrence a year prior to that. He was off at college, and I was just mixing songs for him when he was putting together a project, because I met Darren on Twitter, of all places. Yeah. But I had never met him in person or anything. I wound up starting a nonprofit. We threw some shows, and I just started naturally meeting a lot of people in the scene.
Just by being there, just being present, just being in the city doing stuff, right?
Exactly. And, you know, I had the blog, too, and the blog was really starting to make a lot of noise, at least.
What was the name of the blog again?
It's called Iris.
Oh, it's called Iris? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought it was, because I know there was two. It was like New Dallas, and then there was another one, which was Iris.
Yeah. New Dallas came a little bit afterwards, but with Iris, we were just kind of, I was just posting music. I was reviewing it. I started on Tumblr, you know, and then from there, that's how I really just met everybody. Kawama, really just a lot of people.
So
Carrie.
How do you feel about, like, because people now, they value your opinion after all this time that you know, and you build all these relationships, and people have seen the success that you bring to artists. Yeah. How does it feel like having that, you know, that influence on you know, people's thoughts? How does it feel?
Honestly, I really never think about it, and sometimes it's I'm just so much in work mode. It's really hard sometimes to like sit back and be like, oh, is that really what it is?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it never really feels like that.
Right.
But at least for me, I'm just I'm focused on getting to the next level. And, you know, sometimes, at least for now, I'm getting older, so I'm going through this period where I'm just focused on really leveling up. And by doing that, you know, the requirements and the standards that I'm setting for myself and the people I eventually work with is getting higher and higher. And, you know, things are starting to fall where they may because of that. But at the end of the day, it's what I got to do to get to where I need to be.
So whenever because most people, they think the route is to be like the rapper, the face.
Yeah.
What happened to where you decided, you know what, man, I want to be the guy behind the face. I want to be that executive that everybody's like, yo, he has this act, he has this act, he has this act. They're all top charting. They're all A-list superstars. Like, what made you want to go that route as opposed to just being a rapper or whatever?
I mean, I started engineering when I was 8. So, you know, from 8 all the way up to about 18, in the span of 10 years, I just, you know, recording to me and performing to me, it was really just, it was simple. I really got into like vocals, and I started doing vocal training myself. And I eventually went to school and I got an actual vocal coach who I worked with for like 3 years. But just, you know, going through the process so many times, and then too, I'm still working with all these different artists. So I'm seeing it up close and personal. It was, I don't know, it was more interesting to figure that out than it was to just be the person. And plus too, when I was doing music, like I've released at least 7 albums, 7 projects throughout my life. And made plenty more that I never put out.
You're saying you yourself as an artist.
Yeah, and made plenty more that I never put out. But, you know, at the end of the day, it never really did much. Yeah. You know, I always found success when I was working behind someone else. Like, the artists were always moving up in the ranks, more so than me. Yeah. So, you know, it made sense.
Yeah, it just, that's just the way the universe led you, basically. And
Yeah.
you went with that sign. You went with that instinct. You're like, okay, well, this feels good. This, I'm struggling with. So let me just go with what feels good. And I'm already good at it and I already enjoy it. Well, let me lock in. That's basically what you.
Yeah, at 17, I was like, I want to be a record label.
Yeah.
I mean, a record executive.
Mm-hmm. So who are your like inspirations? Like who's like that guy you want to model your career after?
Ironically, it was Apple and Steve Jobs.
Oh, okay.
I wound up getting a job there when I was 18, and just kind of seeing how the company worked up close, like it really inspired me to make Iris. But I never really looked at a lot of executives. I didn't know a lot of their stories. Now that I'm older, of course, I've done my research and I found out a lot of things. So there's a lot of people that I look up to now. But initially, I didn't have anyone as an example. It literally was just trial and error for a very, very long time. It still is trial and error.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like once you stop being a student, you lost. Like
Yeah.
you gotta. It's always gonna be something else, especially with a craft like music, and then being that A&R for a musician, you gotta have a certain ear to, okay, this voice sounds good on this. Okay, this is what, because you're crafting the music for them. They just have to. It just has to flush out of them at this point, which is a great thing for a creative, because a lot of us don't have that. We don't have that help that we.
I didn't have it.
Yeah,
And I was the one who
you
had
were
to,
the person that had to give it, right?
No, and I was always the person who had to go and figure out, what it was. And literally, my whole idea behind Iris was artists shouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah, for real, man.
Like for the longest, I wanted to be. Initially, I wanted to be an actor, and then 10, I found music.
Yeah.
Well, I had always had music, but I was
that's
more
when
into music.
That's when it stuck. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, parents, teachers, everyone's like, well, you need to go to college. You really can't go for music. You got to do this, that, and the third. So I'm like, well, I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And, I was really focused and intended on doing that. But then at 17, it's like, fuck that. It don't even make me happy. Like, I know what I want to do. I know what I'm good at. And at this point, I just got to stick with it.
Yeah.
And just being able to give myself to artists in that way is what really drove my passion forward. But at the same time, it jaded me in a way that,
bro. Yeah.
that is, turning me into who I'm supposed to be. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, cause it's crazy. It's crazy you say that, because I was always that person as well. Like with my circle,
that's how I
do all my videos. I do all the, I do all the editing.
Yep.
All my graphic design, I do it. Like it's all. I had to figure it out, and then because I was the only one that knew, everybody else was, hey, Sean, shoot my video. Hey, dude.
Gravitated towards it.
And so now, and on top of that, I was already good at my craft. Like I'm already, I'm already working on myself, you know. So now that I got all these extra tools, it just makes me a lot more self-sufficient. But imagine if I could have just used all that time and just stuck with this that was already going, instead of, trying to, okay, I got to learn this. Okay, I got to learn this. That's what I feel like artists don't really understand whenever they are blessed and they're lucky enough to have somebody to do that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
every last one of the artists that I worked with initially, I spoiled them. And, because of that, they started to think that what I was doing was normal.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
man.
that's crazy. Yeah, no.
And, no matter how much I talked to them, no matter how much I begged and pleaded, like, they only learned once they've, I don't want to say fell, but really fell and hit their head.
Well, yeah, they gotta go see it for themselves. You can only tell them so much.
Yeah.
But whenever they're put in that predicament, that's gonna be $300 for that.
Yeah.
Oh well, hold on.
Shit, I gotta write this person to get this. They don't just post.
They don't just do it.
I gotta email these people.
One by one. I gotta They don't. Yeah, everybody think that the help that they get is like that's the standard, you know what I mean? They think they're like, oh, like that is just what automatically happens.
Especially
because
working
that's
as
the only
teenagers.
person, you're the only person that they dealt with at the beginning of their career.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh yeah, no, I can just go do it on, whatever. Yeah. And then they realize like, oh, he was going over and beyond for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He for real believed in me.
Yeah, he was going out of his way.
Like I think the power of belief whenever you get it from somebody else, like that's a different, because you know. Most of the time, a lot of people, they just want to shoot you down. They want to bring you down to. Nah, you want to be at the Grammys? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, good luck type. You know.
Yeah.
There's never that person like go. Like you got it, go. Like,
Exactly.
And I've been watching because football season started, and I've been watching a lot of behind the scenes of football.
Yeah.
And I always wonder why there were so many like coaches, like so many people just dressed up. And I saw this one scene where I guess a guy got a sack or like a big play, and he goes back, and one of the coaches got straight in his face and was like, "Yo, you're the greatest. They can't hold you. They can't stop you. They can't like just building him up, like you know what I mean." And then there was another video I saw. It was Steve Kerr and Steph Curry, and Steve Kerr was like, "Yo, I love you, man. You know you're amazing. They can't stop you. Keep shooting. Just believe in yourself. You're unstoppable."
Did you see that Nike commercial with Serena and her dad?
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, whenever you get that power of belief from somebody else, like, you don't take it for granted because, man, not a lot of people have that, no, and especially somebody that has an ear for music or somebody that, that wants to help you with your craft,
Yeah.
Like, there's people that'll be like, yeah. You got it, but they don't really know. But when there's somebody that knows, it's like, all right, I need that. And I've been fortunate enough to have people like that. Yeah. But I mean,
and you were that for a lot of people too.
Yeah. Well, that's what my intention is. At least for this podcast, I want everybody to be, I want to showcase all the cool people I know. You know what I mean? I know a lot of cool people, and they all do great stuff. So let me just get them on and, showcase them. So I wanted to get into like, cause I remember. There's a funny story a long time ago, and I didn't even know about this, but I remember you did a show, and I think Post Malone was on the card or whatever.
Yeah, he was the headliner.
Yeah, and that was like one of his first shows, and you gave him that opportunity. You want to talk about that? Like, that's just crazy.
Yeah, again, that's something that it happened so early on that I don't know.
And this is before White Iverson and all that. Like, he didn't even blow up. Like, that's just crazy to see talent from that, that far down. You know what I mean? And now look at Post Malone, man. Like, this guy's way out of there, you know?
Really out of there.
Yeah, like, he's going to go down there like a legend.
He's way out of there.
They got a few number ones on his belt.
During that time period, working with Parker, he was going to high school, and Post was a senior along with Parker. They didn't really know each other, but a sophomore at their school, I guess, had been cool with Parker and watching all the things that Parker was doing. He reached out to me. His name was Matt. He said he wanted to throw a show for his homie album release party, or mixtape release party, which happened to be Post. So I said, okay, cool. He was like, we'll do Irish Presents. We'll have Terrence and Brandon, which was also their first show ever with Iris. I had just started managing. Oh, excuse me. Just started managing them. Yeah. But after that, we did the show somewhere off in South Lake. I can't remember exactly, but it was a pretty cool spot. Real low key. It was like in this government-looking building. And, we got there, and then next thing I know, it's like a wave of like 80 white kids.
Damn.
Coming in. Bro, they were turned up, coming through the door in the hallway. They were dancing, they were singing. I'm like, what the fuck? They have to be on something. They came in, they turned the party up. We had a drummer and a band, so it was really cool experience. And again, something that looking back on the footage from that time, it's like, damn, this was really a moment.
Yeah,
and
man.
It's crazy because at that time I wasn't. I was on the scene, and I was still trying to work with a lot of people on the scene, and they really was not hitting me back.
Right.
They just didn't fuck with me. But Jay Will, that was the first time I met Jay Will at that show, too, because he actually came out and
shout out Jay Will. That's a Dallas OG right there.
Yeah, Jay Will, he real. So, yeah, it was
he hit you up. He hit you up, and then that's
he came
how
out to the show. Yeah.
He went to the show, and then after that, that's how y'all's relationship started. That's crazy.
And that's how I wound up on the podcast and everything else.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So, how was that experience? Like being so young in your career, and people start challenging you because of just because you're saying New Dallas. You're trying to make a usher in a new life to the city. Yeah. Like how did that feel? Getting backlash for that.
Honestly, at the time, I really don't remember what it felt like. It was so long ago, and so much other shit has happened since then.
Yeah.
I do remember like, at least now in hindsight, how I look at that moment is just being like one of the moments where I was so young. It just reminds me how young and naive I was at the time to, not really understand what was going on. Because, to me, it was just Terrence's album. But to them, it was like, man, y'all trying to start a new movement, trying to push us out. Like, we the niggas up next. You finna get in the industry. And it's like, bro,
yeah,
I don't even know what y'all talking about. And it's crazy because literally the industry changed so quickly that all those people during that time, they don't even do anything dealing with music anymore. Like, some of them still doing their out here and still doing their thing. But majority of them, like,
Yeah,
they're not still kicking.
Stagnant or it's just, and I hate whenever like that happens because it seems like people like to project their bitterness on other people, and I don't understand like why people can't just up everybody else, because if you get up, in that sense, they gonna bring you up too.
Exactly.
Like,
right. People don't think like that.
People
don't think like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. For some reason, when it comes to minorities, we have a crab in a bucket mentality. Yeah. It's crazy because the situation just happened to me in this new studio situation that I'm in where, I'm just doing something focused on my business. Next thing you know, everybody's upset and mad. And it's like, bro, I didn't even, but.
What happened? What happened with that?
It was just one of those situations where I moved into a spot that was already being occupied by this really big, recording studio and another smaller one who was kind of doing urban music too. But, them niggas were way older than me and they, you know what I'm saying? They've been in the game doing things. So, they had other situations going on. They got label reps coming out and meeting them. So, there was an available space. Met the guy. They wanted me there. They introduced me to the building. I did what I had to do in a matter of a week. I secured the spot, and then the next thing I know, they're like, "Bro, you trying to move in on our territory?" And it's like, bro, I didn't.
Right.
I thought we were cool. I didn't know this. I mean, we've been working together fine, but now all of a sudden I'm a threat, and it's like I don't even think I know what I'm doing right now. And here you are projecting these things on me, but it really just shows me that I got to step it up because clearly, there's an energy around me that I'm not aware of, but I need to take advantage of it and really get to where I need to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous that you anybody has to go through that.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a mentality of lack. It's like there's only a finite amount of stuff they can And at the end of the day, man, like I go on YouTube and I watch this YouTube channel and it's called Senza Tempo Cane Corso, and it's just a lady following dogs. Her Cane Corsos, and just talking about dogs, and she's getting thousands of subscribers. You know what I mean? Then there was this one YouTube channel that I watched. It's like I think it's called Ants Canada or something.
Yeah.
And it's just he has a whole bunch of ant farms, and he just talks about his ant farms. And he has like 1.9 million subscribers. It's like there's something out there for everybody. Like if you good, you gonna stand out. Like you're gonna be fine. Like if you really put in the work.
Every possibilities, things that wasn't imaginable. Like even just 2 years ago, like the music industry is changing quickly. So, at the end of the day, while you focus on fighting for what you already got, I'm trying to chase what's coming.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
You're trying to scrap.
Yeah.
Bro, we already on another thing.
Yeah.
Already past that. So, but like, would you say that is the root of the problem for the Dallas-Fort Worth area as far as building a strong infrastructure for music, like making it a mecca, almost like a mecca for music, because there's a lot of talent out here, but would you say that is like that mentality is what's holding everybody back?
Yeah, I would definitely think that someone not having the mentality of being able to say, you know what, there's so many talented people here. We need to build something to be able to work with everyone. But honestly, all these artists are coming with different teams. They're coming with, a lot of baggage that sometimes hinder the process of, people really being able to work with you. Because, there's plenty of artists I like and I've met. And it's like, bro, I really want to work with you. Like, we can really do something. But, the homie from middle school is kind of in the way.
Yeah.
And next thing, it's like I'm competing with. It's like, bro, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, man. Like, look, you want to get the bag or not?
Exactly. So, it's little things like that that wind up preventing the things from happening. But at least for me, I think if I'm trying to do it, but unfortunately, because of situations like that too, it's harder to build a team of people dedicated. To, chasing that mission and really working with all the talent here.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm fortunate because I was talking to my homie Raheem off air, and we were just saying that we're slowly trickling into this scene, and I feel like it's gonna open a lot of people's eyes because, I mean, Cody, I've known him for I don't know how long, like way back. I seen him when he was a youngin, like way back, and then Malcolm, who's Iminicon, whenever he gets here, I've known him since way back. These are people that are infiltrating like the scene, and these are people that I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can't wait for that to happen for everybody because I feel like right now it's like a give and take. Like how you saying, like it's kind of like, oh, I got my homies, I got my own, and I feel like all my homies we ready to go out and help whoever. We gonna figure it out,
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that, but I mean,
it takes time.
It definitely takes time.
Yeah, I always think about just on a music level. I think about To Pimp a Butterfly. How like when you look at the credits and you look at all the musicians that's a part of it, like Terrence Martin kind of like ran those sessions because his jazz background. Yeah. But then like you see everybody else and you're like, oh dang, Thundercat played bass on that. Kamasi Washington played horns on that, and then you find out like these guys are in their 30s, but then you find out they knew each other in high school. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Timbaland and
Pharrell, like even that, you
like
find out that whole Virginia thing. It was like, oh, y'all known each other since middle school. Like, oh, that's crazy. And I think it's gonna be the same thing here, where it's like everybody connected now, and and then 10, 15 years from now, we'll be like, oh, y'all knew each other from, like, oh, wow, that's crazy how all that played out, you know what I mean? Because I feel like everybody will kind of be in their own little avenues, but it'll all come back together later, you know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what we were talking about in the car, too, because we were talking about the podcast, and I was like we're all just little pieces of the puzzle, because it's bigger than, like, one specific individual. It's going to have to take a collective of people. It's always a team. It's never just like, oh, now we here, It's like, hey, boom, boom. Oh, I met this dude. He linked me with this. Then we did this. It's always like that. Yeah. So I'm excited for that. But I wanted to get into what you do. I wanted to get into all the music that you're working on, and so go ahead and explain a little bit what type of sound you got and what type of sound you're aiming for.
It's really like in the jazz R&B, so like my favorite musician is Terrence Martin. Been listening to him since I was about 17, 18.
Yep.
And back then, like I wasn't like really playing, I was just making beats. I wasn't really playing keys like that. And so when I heard his stuff, I was like, oh, that's just way, way too advanced. I'm not even I just like the music. I'm not trying to be like him. I just like it. But then, what happens is, I mean, like your ear is just, if you listening to it so much, you're going to end up leaning to it anyway. And I kind of caught myself not even realizing it. I kind of make stuff and people will hear it like, oh, man, it sounds kind of jazzy. And I'm like, nah, it don't sound jazzy. It don't sound jazzy. I'm like, I appreciate it, but it don't. But then, like, after a while, I kind of sat back and I was like, nah, it kind of do. Like, it wasn't until, like, I had played something years ago for my grandma. And when she said it, I was like, okay, she old enough to say if it's jazzy, it's jazzy then, you know what I mean? And at that point, I kind of just started going towards, it started being like intentional as opposed to like accidental. Okay. And then once I kind of threw intent behind it, it kind of grew a little bit more. So I try to put a lot of live instrumentation. Almost anything that I have out has live instrumentation, if you hear the keys, that's me playing it. And then any other instruments you hear, I probably commission somebody to do it, whether it's, the saxophone or the trumpet, guitars. On my last release, 25 has a bunch of guitars on it.
Is your vibe like the live vibe? Like, do you, is it because it's live though? Is it because of the feeling that it adds that it's live, or is
it's a thing where it's just certain things you can't
emulate?
Yeah, emulate, like, with software. I mean, of course, like, you got plugins that, like, gets it really, really close. And if you know how to play, I mean, we know people who, they know how to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, like G.I. can make it sound like a bass player really playing the bass. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, we know guys that can really, get busy like that. But it's just something about like I just want that additional. And like I said, everything, most of the things I listen to have that in it. So it's like when I'm creating, you know, I want to add those extra elements. You know, the inspiration behind 25 was Tom Misk. You know what I mean? That's why it was in Third Beat, like one of his joints. I watched one of his NPR performances, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do something in Third Beat. I want the guitars, boom, boom, boom. So, you know, I found somebody, and it was just crazy because he was just watching it. He was like, oh, that's what I want to do anyway. And I was like, bet.
It just worked
you
out
know, it
perfectly.
just worked out perfect like that. So I think just my thinking a lot, you know, a lot of the things that I'm listening to and studying, you know, it has live instrumentation. So when I'm creating, I want to add those extra elements to it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and not everybody's doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, you got a lot of people doing it, but you know, it's still missing. You know, in certain places. So I just want to, you know, contribute.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been playing?
I've been
keys?
playing. I mean, I've been making beats. I made my first beat in 07.
Okay.
And my mom had got me a keyboard that Christmas.
Oh, tell them the story about who in was it Soulja Boy? You made some.
Yeah. So like a couple years after that, I had been making beats for a little bit, and end up. So like the whole Soulja Boy thing was, you know, Soulja Boy comes out, and then the goal was Soulja Boy gonna come out, blow up, and then A-Rap is next. You know, pass it to A-Rap, and he get next, right?
Yeah.
So I had A-Rap's first single, you know, so you can look it up. It's probably still on YouTube somewhere. It's called
Hey, Umar, go ahead.
So it's called You Can Have It All by A-Rap.
Okay.
And,
How did you get it in his hands?
I don't know what happened, man. I think he had his email up, and I randomly sent it. And I didn't think much of it, and then he started posting music online. Like if you've been on Twitter, you remember like TwitPic and like Tweet.
Oh
like,
yeah.
You know, so like there was another one that was like a music one. You know what I'm saying? Because Twitter didn't let you post pictures, so you had to use TwitPic, and then there was one for music. I forget what it was called, and so like he was posting links, and I was like, man, I wonder if he used my beat. And so I was going through all the links, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, so that's it right there.
That's it? Hold on.
Yeah, so.
Where's there's another, there's something else. Well,
yeah.
Y'all see it. Y'all see what's going on. Y'all see what type of shit is going on right now.
So I made that beat.
Kurt Cobain.
We talking about nearly 10 years ago, like 08, 09. I made that beat.
09 on it.
Yeah, so it was way back. You know, I was like 15, 16.
Yeah.
And so he used it. I hit him up. I was like, yo, that's my beat. Ooh, you know what I'm saying? That's my tag, because I had a tag at the beginning. I was like, yo, that's my tag. And then he was like, bro, like, yeah, we got to get it in. We got to do some more. Yeah. And he was being managed by you know, some people that was connected in the industry, like on the low. And they hit me up and was like, yo, this going to be the single or whatever. And I was like, so you know, me being 15, 16, they're like, yo, get your BMI ASCAP. and I don't know, like, you know, I'm pretty sure anybody that's doing it, they of age, but at the time I was underage, so I couldn't even have a BMI account by myself. Like my mom had to like sign on top like of it or whatever. Like she had to sign up and then put me on it. And but what ended up happening was, I think my assumption is just that Soulja Boy just didn't support it, and it like discouraged him, and so it never like officially happened, you know what I'm saying? But like I was tight like on some selfish shit, like man, I was about to get some checks, man. I was about to, you know what I'm saying? And then like back then, you know, I was pretty aware, so I knew, I was like, oh, that's a cool little tempo, the beat simple, it'll work. He doing the auto tune, it's catchy, like, you know, me being 16, I studied it, but I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna work. I'm gonna make some bread off of this, you feel me? And it just never fell through or whatever. So that's like my only like association with like Soulja Boy, SOD or whatever. And then, you know, just years later, I was just like, I kind of stopped trying to chase the because back then that was like the game. It's like you make a beat, somebody hop on it, you know, you get placed, like you think about placements, you know what I'm saying? And like that was just my swag back then. And then years later, started listening to Terrace Martin. My music started kind of going somewhere else with it. And then, you know, by the time I moved back to Texas, which was 2014, just the whole music landscape was changing. You know, if you was a producer, you was becoming a DJ as well. Like you was kind of branding yourself. You know, you was putting out music yourself. You know what I mean? I'll probably say that like the biggest example early on that I saw was like Selection. You know, where it's like, oh, these is beats. But like all right, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, I can just drop beats. You know what I'm saying? I can just drop beats.
That's really what pushed me too.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, from that, seeing what y'all was doing, you know, you, Medicine, Celebrity, I was like, okay, I'm going to just drop beats. And then that kind of just went from there. You know what I mean?
It's crazy because a lot of people might not know this, but I remember we were at Celebrity's house, you know, working on some music because we would always meet on Tuesdays. And this was maybe the first or second Tuesday that we did meet. And you were playing the keys. And because I had practiced piano, and, you know, but I was just, it didn't really stick yet. So I was just like, So, and then I saw you play keys, and I was like, well, how do you get that good? And you were just like, I just practice every day. I just put the time in. That's it. There was no cheat code. And so after that, that's when I started really like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go in then. If that's I always try to make up a story, you know, like, oh no, they got some special gift. No, it's just I've ran that chord I don't know how many times, and now my brain it goes.
Yeah, you can go to it. So to answer the original question, how long I've been playing keys? So I didn't start taking the piano serious until about 2013, 2014. And so like that's kind of like the time that I count as like me, like even though I was using a keyboard to make beats, I didn't count that as like me playing keys. It's kind of like 2013, 2014 is when I was like, all right, that's when I sat down, started learning theory, started kind of learning what it was that I was playing, knowing like what it meant to like, oh, you in this key, you in that key. Cause man, before that, like I was just ignorant to like, I thought like it was like, okay, this the chord I'm playing. What else can I play? You know, it's like, no, it's like what key you in. You know, you know what I mean?
Math.
So I had no like no knowledge of that. You know what I'm saying? I was very like musically ignorant. And once I sat down and started learning those things, it kind of just opened up my mind a little bit more. I mean, like learning things on a technical level could like limit you as well, because you're thinking like on a numerical. You're boxing it in. But it definitely for what it was that I was shooting for, it definitely opened it up for me. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely lost a lot of that like instinctive like creativity a little bit. You know what I mean? That kind of like searching and being a little bit more riskier. Because you don't know what you're doing, so everything you do is risk. But like when you kind of have like, you know, a scale, you know what I'm saying? When you know, like, you know, then it's like, all right, you know, boom, you know what I mean? So probably about, what's 2018 now? So 4 to 5 years. No more than 5, but probably 4.
What would you say got you, like, how do you find the balance whenever that does happen? Because I have trouble with that too, because there's certain chord progressions that really hit me, and I just want to use them all the time, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, I don't want to go back down to triad. Something, you know, something poppy. I want to stay like soulful. I want to add those extra colors. How do you balance that, like, without going too far?
Continuing to keep learning. So like, I'll say, so like I'm about to re-release a song in probably like a couple weeks, Kim's Interlude. So like I hadn't played it since I first made it, which was in 2015. So I had forgot how to play it. So I was learning how to replay it, and I was like, God damn.
Yeah, man.
I was like, all these goddamn minor 9s and 11s, like, why did I use so many goddamn notes? And then there's this one, and then there's another song I'm putting out after that, where literally a lot of the progressions in that song, I learned how to play different ways. And so what it was like I was learning how to play it, and a lot of it is like borrowing from like this Terrace Martin song. It's like some of his favorite changes. Like I think that in my mind, I feel like if he's like randomly going in the studio and he's like on borrowed time, these are the changes he's going to use, right? And so I was referencing a couple different songs where he did it, and he kind of voiced them different every time.
Just little tweaks.
Yeah, just little tweaks. And I was like, oh snap, like this is the same, like, this is like the same concept, but it's just voiced differently. And it's like, you know, the first time I learned how to play it, you know, it was the big voices, the fat voices, the, you know what I mean?
All the
yeah,
notes.
the shit that had your fingers hurting.
Yeah.
You know, and then I learned to play it again from another song, and I was like, okay, it's not as many. It's kind of spaced out. You don't really have to use the you know, all the notes in the middle. Kind of just the shell voicings a little bit. And it was kind of a thing that I realized it was like, one was like, it was like pure production, and then it was one that it was kind of like acoustic, and he was dealing with a vocalist. So it's like you can't really get it. Yeah, you can't really get as muddy as you would like to, because you got to make room for that vocalist or whatever. And I'll say that balance is just kind of learning different ways to play the same thing. It's like, it's really kind of viewing it as like a concept. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is the concept. The best example of it is kind of just watching like gospel players, right? Where they'll all play the same song. It's this one video where Corey Henry's playing this one song. I forget the name of it, but he plays it 3 times in the same key. And to my understanding, he uses different chords every single time. It's the exact same song. He just plays it. He like starts over, plays it again, same key, just different chords. And it's like, you know, so there's so many different ways to do it. So I think it just kind of comes down to, it's like, okay, I want to use it's kind of the easiest way to break it down is 2-5-1s.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so many ways to do a 2-5-1. It's kind of applying that logic to when you're playing a 7-3-6, or when you're playing, you know,
now we're getting
else.
into jazz theory, guys.
Yeah.
But
sure.
yeah, but I wanted to say, because you craft hits. So what would you like? Do you say that like those type of like soulful chords, you know, are those necessary? Because I feel like a lot of them is just it's like the bare, you know, it's real basic. A lot of it is basic. What would you say?
Yeah, no, they're not ever really necessary, but the theory and principle behind it is, and that's really kind of the secret to a hit. Because to me, like, I grew up in the church, you know, so it's kind of ingrained in me, the things, and you know, for me, American music was built off of gospel music. You know, almost every modern genre stemmed from it. But when you listen to a hit record, like a hit record in the 60s, it's the same principle as a hit record now. Same formula. And if you really get down to the, you know, the nitty gritty of it, you'll see like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. But underlying, it's always something that got some soul to it. You know, even if you don't necessarily hear like a lot of these trap songs, you know, Future, what's the last hit he had? Not March Madness, Mask Off.
Okay.
Like.
That one got some feeling.
It got some gospel feeling
in there.
Yeah, it's funny how like nowadays it's like a lot of genres are just getting mixed, you know.
Thanks to the internet. Thank you guys. I hate it.
You don't like it? Why not? What's wrong with all the fusions?
When I listened to music in the 70s and the 80s, it was so vast. It was so vast, like the sound and sonically what people were doing, because they had to play it live. So not only did they have to rehearse for it, but, you know, every time you play something live, it's going to sound slightly different. So, you know, when I think about Thriller, bro, like all of that is live. Thriller is live.
That's the wild part about it.
You know, and that's some incredible music. And honestly, I feel like the sound of it then was just way more diverse. But now, because of the internet and because of the tools and the way that we kind of produce and share ideas, everything is really just a melting pot of the same thing. And it takes more meticulous details to start to see the difference in what everybody's sound is. It's like on the surface, Bryson Tiller and Black, you know, are the same thing. But if you really get down to the nitty gritty and you listen to it long enough, it's like, okay, I can clearly tell the difference.
I can see the distinction.
But, you know, back in the day, this shit used to be very obvious. The difference between Michael Jackson and Prince.
I say like, in the 70s, what I noticed, because I listened to like a lot of Donny Hathaway. And a lot of those songs he didn't write. You know, it's only a handful of those that like he created. And so when you realize that like, oh, these are covers, you go back and you listen to the original and you're like, wow, like, a lot of the Donny Hathaway stuff is like the music would be the same. He'll just rewrite the vocal. And it's like, yo, it's like even though he replayed the piano the exact same, it sound different. You know what I'm saying? And it's like he's singing the same song, but you know, the way he rewrote that top line, it's like that's
very
crazy.
different from Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, very different, right?
Okay.
Very different.
It's almost,
you know?
I mean, I guess essentially a remix, right?
Yeah. And so, and what I was gonna say is, I think that's what I was loving a couple years ago when everybody was remixing stuff, is because you're getting the same song, but you're getting new music. You know, especially when like, you know, Braden Bailey would like do stuff. He'll always
shout out Where's Alex.
He'll find that pop song, but then throw the gospel stuff on it, and it's
it
like wow,
it
freaks it so crazy.
Amazing.
But it's like it's the same vocal, it's just new music behind it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like wow, look what he did. You know what I'm saying? Look what he did with that. And I think like that kind of made people do a lot more freaking. You know what I'm saying? I think now because we're out of the remix game. You know what I'm saying? Everybody like, oh, we ain't got to do remixes. And just, you know, we done built our name up. We can do the Spotify, or whatever. Get on playlists, sign to the label, all of that. Yeah. And nobody's trying to freak it no more. So everybody's kind of doing the same. Like you're not being introduced to those new sounds again. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's just creating brand new stuff as opposed to creating on top of things, and you're like, oh, they could have did that with that. You know what I mean? Oh, they could have did this with that. Yeah. And that's what I really love, and it's kind of to your point where because that's missing, everything's kind of sounding the same on surface level. I mean, if you dig in it, you know, you see it. You find the
stuff that's different, but you know, as far as what the audience in general are responding to, it is that mediocre.
That's crazy because I was gonna ask you, like, is that the wave? Is that what you would say your listeners like? Is like the same, you know, maybe Migos or Drake or, you know, something in that vein? Is that that's the route that?
Yeah, I mean, at least that's what the people are responding to. Yeah. But you know, I think now with the artists and how we all work, like we're just really focused on cultivating people that like them for them. Yeah, you know,
for sure.
You know, we want to work on the music and make it better. Like, again, I always hold Thriller as the album, like how to make the perfect pop song. Every song was unique. Every song had amazing songwriting. Every song had amazing vocals. But at the same time, it was still pop enough to be accessible to everybody in the world, you know, even now 30 years later. So there's a way to be great and to be pop. Yeah. You know,
shout out to Quincy Jones. Yeah. Check out that Netflix documentary.
I need to see it.
It's so great.
I tried to watch it
It's so great. It's so great.
I'm gonna check it
every
out.
minute of it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But he's a genius, so.
Yeah. I mean, I remember him telling me a story about Quincy that he could just write songs in his head.
Yeah.
You know, like, he could just be like, you know, I need you to do.
He can just rewrite it. He don't have to like go to an instrument to reference the note. He can just notate it off mind.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
I don't think that nigga played past. You know, his 20s.
Yeah, man.
You just get the.
He probably didn't. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Like it's just wild. I mean, what would you value that over holding your own? I guess credibility. Would you like change your sound to cater to what the audience is, you know, responding to, or would you stay true to yourself? Maybe like this isn't the route that I want to be known at. You know what I mean? Like, would you rather just stick with the OG shit?
It's hard because now, honestly, I still kind of make music. I'll do demo records and things like that, but I'm consumed by trap music. Like, I love trap music. Yeah. So, you know, naturally, me being true to myself is kind of, you know, being creative in that vein, and that's really where I find a lot of, you know, fuel to my fire. But at the same time, it's been a struggle for all these years fighting against that, because it's like, this ain't what you are. It's not true to yourself and things. But honestly, at this point, it's like, it's working. So I'm just going to trust myself and follow through with whatever it is. Because honestly, back in 2011, like, I was a big James Blake fan. So, you know, sonically, a lot of the stuff was electronic and in that R&B kind of vein. But, you know, influences change. It changed you creatively. Yeah.
Does it, the climate that we're in with like 808s and like things being simple, does that affect, like even on the executive level, does that affect the creative level as like, it's like, like we ain't gotta do that many chords because they ain't gonna, you know, they ain't gonna catch that. Like do you like, let's not overwork, you know what I mean? They ain't gonna catch it. Like, do you think like that, or does that affect your creativity?
It doesn't affect it. I'm conscious of it. And, you know, sonically, you can just hear where the trend is and kind of where it's going. So, you know, I think in the end, the production choices are kind of trying to be, you know, ahead of the curve. It's like if everyone is if the now sound is trap music, then okay, how do we involve that? Like, how do we take that and mix it with this? Yeah. You know, but you got to dig into it and really find new creative pockets to get there. So, you know, naturally, when we are making music, it's like, all right, you know, you got to keep advancing and evolving with the time musically if you want to stay ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the audience, they're gonna keep moving.
Yeah,
you know,
they're gonna leave you regardless.
Yeah, only the old people will still be consuming. You know, with the ways that technology is changing things, they might not be able to keep up.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already losing myself. Like, I had to ask the, you know.
Yeah, you gotta ask around. Yeah.
Cause I'll be like, who is this guy? It's another guy now. Like, what?
Exactly.
Like, what's going on? But for me, it seems like the landscape. A lot of these artists are really sad. Like, I don't ever hear.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, Juice WRLD is really, like, it's sad music. Like, I feel like, I want to know y'all's thoughts on this, but, like, why do y'all feel like it's a widespread, like, negativity, like, blanket over everything? Like, everybody's just, like, even, like, it shows in the music, because art is just a reflection of how we feel inside, you know? And so it's like, why do you think that's happening right now? Like, what is it?
I would argue it's been happening.
Yeah. Oh, just like for a while now?
I'm like 808s and Heartbreak to Drake. Like, I mean, his earlier stuff was definitely, I mean, it's the same shit. Like,
lower, sad,
yeah, very sad. Like, if you listen to it now, bro, it is really sappy. Very
like
sappy.
Throwback?
Yeah.
To old stuff.
It's still good, but it's real just sappy music, sad, depressing thing. So, you know, and Kanye, I feel like he was doing it too. Wayne was doing it with a lot of his records.
I feel like now, like, I'm talking about these kids are like 19, like they're real young, you know, and this is, and 14-year-old listeners are, you know, they're hearing this, so it's like Kanye was already, we already had Graduation, we had late registration, we had all the good, you know, the stuff that wakes you up in the morning, we already had all that, you know, like, and Drake, same thing, like, we had Comeback Season, we had his, like, struggle, like, hey, I'm trying to get out here, you know.
I think it's, because, like, around the time Kanye put out 808s, you know, I was like in a down space at like 15. You know what I'm saying?
Amy Winehouse was my favorite
You
artist.
know, and I think what's happening is that, I mean, Kanye being that age, he was mature enough to know that like he could do that. And so I think kids now, because they're making music at that age and they see those examples of like, oh, like you can kind of like, you know, so it's like if I was 15 years old and I was a rapper and I was sad, you know, having examples of like, oh, rappers can make sad music. Well, why not? Since I'm feeling sad, how about I express that? And I think that's possibly what's happening, potentially.
So you more aware then.
I think they're just aware of like, I think I think kids have always been sad at that age. I just don't think that they were making the music to reflect it. You know what I'm saying?
The music just got younger.
Yeah, I think what happens is enough music has come out that's like in that sad space. The the Kanyes, the Drakes. The Weeknd, you know, like you had that wave of when we was in, you know, coming out of high school, Kid Cudi, and so now you got kids like these guys are like God to them, you know what I'm saying? Like they the OGs to the young ones, and so I think they're looking at it like, well, I'm making music and I'm feeling down right now. How about I express it?
Who would y'all say is like the hottest right now?
Who's like killing it right now?
The hottest right now, because I could
like
make
new
an
guys,
argument, huh?
Like new.
No, like just
like who the kids gravitating to.
I would say my argument would be Travis Scott. I feel like Travis Scott is the hottest dude right now, like even hotter than Drake.
I'll say, yeah, he up, yeah. I'll say he up there just because the numbers reflect it. I feel like the impact has always been there, like with his fans. I think they always, because I've been to a couple of his shows where it's like, okay, they always show up. I feel like it's the same number of fans. I think now he found some way. I think it was just back-to-back consistency that like made everybody else that's kind of like supported, and that's why you see that bigger number, you know, from what it used to be. You know what I'm saying? From his last release where he did like 400, you know, with the streams. I mean, he's put out projects since streaming has been popping, so it's not because you know you were able a couple years ago. You was like, oh, that's because we counting streams now. But you got a couple of people who put out a couple projects since streams where it's like, okay, that's a big jump. You put out something 2 years ago when streaming was still booming. Like, what happened? You know, and I think it's just, I think it's a lot of groupthink as well. Like, if everybody on Twitter talking about it,
That's it.
People,
That's the way.
you got more people going to go peep it. You know what I'm saying? Like someone asked me today, it was like, oh, like my girl had asked me, she was like, oh, you think white people watch Insecure? I was like, nah, I was like, yeah, they be on Black Twitter, you know, and they see that like, oh, this is what the black folks talking about. Yeah. Let me go peep, even if they not interested.
I never even thought of that.
You know what I'm saying?
Because Black Twitter is like my world. Like that's all I know.
Yeah, that's all we know. That's Twitter to us. You know what I'm saying? That's Twitter to us. But yeah, white folks like, oh, Black Twitter, and then it's like, oh, Insecure on HBO hashtag. Yeah. Let me go peep it. Let me go download the app. Let me go get a stream. And I think that impacts, and I think that's why you see the big drop off a week later from numbers. You know, you see somebody do whatever numbers first week, and then the second week it's like, whoa, that went down 80%. You know, I'll say like, when it's like that, that's when you know. You usually gotta look at the second and third week numbers. Gotcha. It's like, okay, it was the hype, because like I remember when Bryson Tiller came out, he consistently did 20K every week off of streams. You know, so that wasn't hype.
Like
that
was
the
very beginning.
Yeah, when Trap Soul came out. Because I was looking at the numbers. I was like, man, he doing 20K every week. Like, how he doing that? And it's that consistent. It wasn't like a big like boom and then it went down. You know what I mean? It was like consistent fanfare. Yeah. And I think even with Travis Scott, like, I mean, he had did that 400 first week. He did like 250, 300 the next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's consistent. You know what I mean? But when you go from 400 to 80, it's like, okay, that's hype. You know what I'm saying? Or that's previous streams. You put some old songs on there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
wow, that's, I mean, to me, like, would you say that's how you gauge who's the hottest, is just sales and streams? That'd be the only thing.
Yeah, because the things with stream, and Nipsey Hussle said something in an interview. He was like, streams benefit you when you got a classic, and the beauty, what I love about streams is it lets you know. It lets you know that, like, cause like if I buy the album, like if it with no streams, it's like when you see every number you see every week is new fans. It's like, oh well, we already bought the album, so it's other people they hearing about it. They like, all right, I'm gonna go get it. 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 Like, oh, I don't get paid again till I'm gonna go get it. But like with streams, it's like, nah, that's people listening to you every day. So that's consistent. That's consistent fanfare. You know what I mean? So you able to like fairly gauge like your actual impact. Because I mean, I got plenty of albums that I bought back in the day. I bought the CD, listened to it one time, you know, but they still got my sale, you know. I'm still a part of the platinum, you know what I mean? But like with streams, it's like, nah, they still listening. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They still listening to you, you know what I mean? So you're able to kind of gauge like what's really going on, like what's really happening. And I mean, we all got music that's out on streams. You know, you look at those numbers, you see them fluctuate. You like, okay, what happened that week? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened that month? Like, what was going on that month with, oh, I had a show, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I had got some retweets, or I put the video out. You know what I mean? You kind of able to gauge what's really going on. That's the beauty of streaming. And so that's why streaming is big as far as like your impact, because it shows what you're currently doing. You know, my favorite thing to do is whenever I hear hype, because like, you know, we all got Spotify, you know, artist accounts, and it lets you compare your numbers to somebody else's. So I love going, like I looked when Mac Miller died, I went straight to it. I was like, let me see what the streams were. They doubled that day. That's just that one day. You know what I'm saying? They doubled. So he was probably getting like 3 million a day anyway. It went to 6. The day he died, as soon as the news went out, 6 million plays on Spotify.
X has been up there.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And then you know, a day or two later, it kind of went back to the regular flow of what he typically gets. You know what I'm saying? And I look at that when people put out albums. You know, I'm like, okay, boom. And then like No Name, I forget what she was getting regularly, but when she put out the album, million streams that day. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So people listen to the old and people listening to the new, and it's new, so you playing it a bunch of times. You know what I'm saying? So that's like my favorite thing to do, is like to kind of like see that spike and like what's happening. It's like, okay, that's the hype going on right now. Or like you just dropped some, or you just had a performance on SNL, or you just did some late night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you say it's a lot easier and user friendly for artists to come out now? Like, to me, I feel like there should be no excuses. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear no. Oh, you know, you got this. Like, there's really no excuses, bro. Like at the end of the day, they just announced the Spotify. It's in beta mode right now. But whenever it does come out, you can just upload straight to Spotify.
Straight to Spotify.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like whenever you come with excuses, like you're not holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself in that position.
Yeah, it's like, bro, you can put it, you know, because a couple years ago it was like, I ain't trying to spend $100 on Tune Care. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to, like, we knew how to get it on there, but it's like, I ain't really trying to drop that. But now it's like, bro, you ain't got to pay no money to get your stuff up there. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to pay no money.
No, like, right now I use STEM, and there's no upload fee.
No
take
upfront.
3%.
It's just percentage of what you make.
To me, I'd rather, 3%, that's nothing to me, you know?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it might end up becoming, like how, because Frank Ocean dropped his on STEM as well.
Oh,
and you could just imagine what 3% of what Blonde did, because he did that indie. That's all him.
Yeah.
So they're taking 3% of all his shit. Like, come on, man. That's a lot, you know? And I feel like that did a lot for that company. But at the end of the day, like, you really have no excuse. Like whenever people come to me and they, this, and this. Like, nah, you got the same 24 hours I got. You know what I mean? You might have more responsibilities, which I understand, but there's some times where you be on
sacrifices.
Netflix, or on Xbox.
Yeah, you've been binging Ozark. You could have been working on your craft.
Yeah, and that's what I like to showcase for all, everybody that I bring on the show, to show them that, like, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. There's no other outlet. There's no cheat code. Nobody has a cheat code. This is life. You got to go. You got to do it, So, now that everybody knows y'all, I want to ask, like, what are y'all listening to right now? What got y'all excited as far as music? Because I know No Name just dropped. I know
No Name just dropped. I've been jamming that. No Name.
You don't know who No Name is?
No Name.
I've heard of it.
Oh, I'm about to say, what?
Yeah, she just put out a new project. It's fire. What else am I listening to? Been giving that new Black some spins.
What you feel about that? You don't fuck with that?
You ain't feeling it.
Bro. I'm not gonna say nothing, but it's
that new Jameson just dropped, so I'm on that. Jameson.
Yeah, I know you really rock with Jameson.
I really rock with Jameson, man.
He's another one of those guys that's
He's
acoustic.
I was thinking about it recently when he put this out. I was like, bruh, when it's all said and done, that catalog is gonna be crazy. Like, it's like album after album, it sounds slightly different. Like, it still sound like him. Yeah. It's slightly different, and you gotta respect consistency.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something about consistency that's just respectable. It's like time and time, like, you still ain't. You know what I mean? Like, even the one that was like kind of a dud to some people because he was doing a lot of like talking in between songs. Yeah. It's still like the music is still fire though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You might not have liked all the talking he was doing, but the music is still fire. And it's like, you got to respect consistency when you consistently, you know what I'm saying? Because that's tough, like, to put out a full-length album. It's not like he was putting out 20-minute joints every time. You know what I mean? Huh? Jameson. Jameson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What are you listening to?
I'm listening to old music, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Well, you can always pull from, like, old, like disco tracks. You know what I mean? Yeah. The drums on the disco tracks. They had a lot of percussion in those. Yeah. It sounds like, just boom, 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 or whatever, but it really has a lot of different percussion in it. I've been listening to a lot of disco and a lot of house music, and I've been making a lot of house just to, because really it's just almost like a metronome. The drums are just a metronome, but the space in between, like, I love, adding that bass line or adding the hats, and they're going crazy, and, you got bongos going. Like, I love adding all those elements because you might not hear them on the first listen. And that's what I get a lot from, like, older music. With this music now, it's an 8-bar loop, and you just space it out. You might add a melody in the chorus, but other than that, it's the same thing through, you know. So that's dope. Yeah, I've been listening to, like, Post Malone. He has this one song, "Stay," which is all guitar, and I like that song. And I've been listening to a lot of Disclosure. Disclosure is dope. And then just keeping in with my scene, the beat scene. So, but I wanna thank you guys for coming on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at, and links and upcoming stuff, because I know y'all got some stuff coming.
Yeah. Terrence project drops on October 26th.
Terrence Spectacle.
Yeah, Terrence Spectacle, and Lar's dropping his new single next month as well. But you can find me at It's MSAW, MSAW, on Twitter. Small Wins, 2 N's on IG.
Cool.
And I got all my socials is ThankYouTEZ. That's on IG and Twitter. Got some new stuff coming in the next couple of weeks. M-Saw mixes everything I put out. So
Yes, sir.
I'll be sending him the files pretty soon in the next day or two.
Let's get it.
So yeah, I got 2 more releases for the year. Re-releasing Kim's Interlude with Masego. Got a new bass line on there.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I got a new bass line on there from this girl named Maddie J out in Cali.
Shout out Maddie J.
And then, you know, just have a new mix on it. I'm gonna replay the keys, but it'll be the same chords. And then I'll put out in November. I'll put out another song. It'll be like my first release with vocals since we did that remix with Danny Keiko back in 2015.
Wow.
So it'll be my first. Yeah, so it'll be my first time putting something out. It was a long time ago. Different vibe.
Yeah.
So October, November, 2 more drops, and then, you know, just plotting on 2019, man.
Cool. Well, appreciate y'all having
Appreciate it, bro.
You know what I mean? And we'll see y'all probably in a couple hours. I got another podcast coming, so peace. Cool.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.